morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Joseph Bednarik, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to the online service of the Quimper Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, a loving, spirited, and inclusive community. While our physical sanctuary is located in Port Townsend, Washington, this online community now extends far beyond the region. Wherever it is that you happen to be this morning, we are glad that you're here with us. In a moment, we're going to be lighting our chalice here in the sanctuary, and you are most welcome to light a candle wherever you may be. And we begin our service by taking a moment to acknowledge that the waters, the mountains, the valleys, and the shorelines here in Port Townsend and the environs are the traditional territory of the S'Klallam and Chemicum people. We want to acknowledge and honor our indigenous neighbors, and we want to vow to help restore and sustain their homelands, their flora, and their fauna. And if you happen to be living in Port Townsend, we encourage you to travel the Chichmahan Trail, which will provide you some deeper understanding of the indigenous history of this remarkable place. Our call to community this morning is Vine and Fig Tree, sung by Doug and Pat Rodgers.
And everyone neath the vine and fig tree shall live in peace and unafraid. And everyone neath the vine and fig tree shall live in peace and unafraid. And into plowshares turn their swords, nations shall learn war no more. And into plowshares turn their swords, nations shall learn war no more. And everyone neath the vine and fig tree shall live in peace and unafraid. And everyone neath the vine and fig tree shall live in peace and unafraid. And everyone neath the vine and fig tree shall live in peace and unafraid. And everyone neath the vine and fig tree shall live in peace and unafraid. And into plowshares turn their swords, nations shall learn war no more. And into plowshares turn their swords, nations shall learn war no more.
Thank you, Doug and Pat. That was fantastic. I now invite you to join Worship Associate Carolyn Salmon and me in the lighting of our chalice. This Sunday, we light the chalice with these words from the Bhagavad Gita, which are slightly edited. A person is constructed by faith. Whatever their faith, so they are. The opening words this Sunday morning is a reminder that we're lighting the candle of faith, because we're entering a time of year when the earth grows colder, the animals begin to hibernate, the days become continually shorter, and we've come to that time where we light a new candle each Sunday until Christmas Eve. And the flame of each candle reminds us that something is happening now, but something is more still to come. The light of these candles grows brighter and brighter each Sunday, guiding us towards a deeper faith, increased hope, shared joy, and more love. This morning, we light the first candle, the candle of faith. Sonia and Eleanor.
We light this first candle for faith, for the choice to gather in community, and the stories that tell us who we are and who we might be, for the wisdom we receive and the insight that breaks in upon us, and for all the things that guide us in living lives that fit our spirit.
Thank you, Eleanor and Sonia. We also want to thank Laura Byrne, who made these beautiful miniature Advent banners, and the two Celestes, Celeste Dybeck and Celeste Archambault, who made the special Advent pedestal cloths. You'll see them change each week to match the color of the Advent candle being lit that day. And now I'd like to invite Bo Olgren, our Director of Family Ministry, who will share the time for all ages. Bo.
Good morning, everyone. I hope this week you have had a chance to reflect and connect with friends and family alike, and hopefully eat some really good food. Today, we are talking about belief and faith, and I wanted to share this very sweet short story about what one person's faith helped them achieve. And this is an original story called The Carrot Seed that was written in 1945 by Ruth Krauss. A little boy planted a carrot seed. His mother said, "I'm afraid that it won't come up." His father said, "I'm afraid it won't come up." His older brother said, "I don't think it will come up." But every day, the little boy pulled up the weeds around the seed and sprinkled the ground with water. But nothing came up. And nothing came up. Everyone kept saying it wouldn't come up. But still, he pulled up the weeds around it every day and sprinkled the ground with water. And then, one day, a carrot came up. Just as the little boy had known it would. Sometimes faith is in the little things, and believing in ourselves can make all the difference.
Thank you, Bo. I have 3 special announcements today. Now is the time to submit a proposal to teach a spring adult learning program class. ALPS classes and field trips will be all on Zoom again, beginning in February and going through June. Please share your talent and expertise with the fellowship members and wider community. ALPS will help with the technology. The deadline for proposals is December 1st. Just click the ALPS button on the QUUF homepage to fill out a form. The next 2 announcements pertain to our auction. I am so pleased to announce that our numbers were slightly over $40,000 at this time, and with $18,550 for funded need. That's about the same as last year, but without the extra expenses of renting the fairgrounds and such. Due to your generosity, we greatly exceeded our goals and expectations and managed to have a very fun time. For those of you who missed the live portion of the auction, here's a peek. And now I invite Wilbur Pickerson to share the rest of this announcement. Wilbur. Hello, everyone. I'd like to acknowledge and welcome those of you who may be visiting us today. If you are a newcomer or are returning from being away for a while, Please say hello in the comments section on the right side of your screen. We'd love to know your name and where you're from so that we can get to know you better. There's always a lot happening at QUUF, so if you haven't done so yet, please check out our website at quuuf.org for a whole host of free online classes, events, and groups. We also hope you'll consider joining us for some coffee hour conversation after this service. Just look for the link that'll be posted in the comments section at the end of the service. And lastly, if you find this service useful or inspirational, hopefully both, we hope you'll share the link with your friends and family. So welcome, everyone. We're glad you're with us today. And it's now time for the offering. Today, we are taking up a collection for the online programming and staff costs for QUUF. If you benefit from our offerings but are not a pledging member, this is your opportunity to express your appreciation for the services we offer. If you'd like to make a donation to this worthy cause, you have 3 options. 1, text the amount you'd like to give to the number now showing at the bottom of the screen. 2, go to our website, quuuf.org, and click on the word Giving, or simply mail a check to QUUF. We will now gratefully receive your offering as we listen to the Offertory, the Barcarole by Mendelssohn. It will be played by Otto Smith on concertina and Sheila Harwood on piano. Thank you, Sheila and Otto. It is now time to share our joys and sorrows. As always, we begin this ritual with the recognition that our personal joys and sorrows are only a fragment of the joys and sorrows of the larger community of life. Thus, we place this first stone in honor of all the brave and stalwart people in our community who are respecting the stark reality of the virus and being diligent with mask wearing and social distancing, all in the name of personal and community health. When you see someone wearing a mask, they are saying, "I see you, I respect you, be well, my friend." And now, within the congregation, we light this candle for Carl Allen, who had back surgery this week in Seattle. His wife, Barbara, reports that Carl is resting and doing well. We place a stone of sorrow for QUUF friend Rick Farasi, whose son was killed in a car crash last weekend. The loss of a child is one of the greatest loss anyone can bear. So let us hold Rick in our hearts at this tragic time in his life. We light a candle of healing for Lyda Wachel. Our thoughts are with Lyda as she works with her doctors to find the correct diagnosis for heart ailment. And we have a couple of birthdays to celebrate today. This first candle is for Julia Cochran, who celebrated her birthday last Sunday. Happy belated birthday, Julia. And this next candle is for Jack Steckman, who celebrated his birthday yesterday with his wife, Bernie. You may recall that Jack and Bernie survived COVID last spring, so it brings us all extra joy to be able to light this candle and wish Jack a very happy birthday. We also have a few candles of gratitude to light today. The first was requested by our minister, Kate. This first candle is being lit for Bruce Bodie, who kindly agreed to cover for Kate next Sunday so she can visit her mother. Some of you may have heard that Kate's mother is in the final months of her life due to extensive cancer. Kate will return from her visit this Friday and will quarantine until December the 18th, working from home via email and Zoom. On behalf of all of us, thank you, Bruce, for making this possible. Member Victoria Pursley asked that we light a candle of gratitude for Deb Carroll for all that she does to help the QUF community and whose generosity knows no bounds. Deb is a wonderful joy to so many of us, and we are deeply grateful that she has stepped in as our temporary administrator. And last but not least, Al and Joellen Thompson asked that we place a stone of gratitude for their loving cat, Mosby, who died in Joellen's arms yesterday. Mosby came to the Thompsons through Kay Harper when her daughter-in-law was expecting twins, and they had a house full of pets. So the Thompsons adopted Mosby, a very people-oriented cat who loved to snuggle. And now we place a final stone, holding in our hearts the joys and sorrows I've just shared, while also thinking of such joys and sorrows among us that are unexpressed but of no less importance. I invite you now into a moment of silence, which will be followed by a musical response.
The reading this morning is entitled I Believe by Jim Harrison. I love this poem because it grounds itself in the specificity of the world. It also reminds us that small gods are fluttering all about and that the world is not necessarily kind to small gods. It takes faith to believe in small gods, and it takes care to keep them present with us. I Believe by Jim Harrison. I believe in steep drop-offs, the thunderstorm across the lake in 1949, cold winds, empty swimming pools, the overgrown path to the creek, raw garlic, used tires, taverns, saloons, bars, gallons of wine, abandoned farmhouses, stunted lilac groves, gravel roads that end, brush piles, thickets, girls who haven't gone totally wild, river eddies, leaky wooden boats, the smell of used engine oil, turbulent rivers, lakes without cottages lost in the woods, the primrose growing out of the cow skull, the thousands of birds I've talked to all my life, the dogs that talk back, the Chihuahuan ravens that follow me on long walks, the rattler escaping the cold hose, the fluttering of unknown gods that I nearly see from the left corner of my blind eye, struggling to stay alive in a world that grinds them underfoot. The special music this morning is by Bernhard Molique, performed by Otto Smith and Sheila Harwood. Thank you, Otto and Sheila. That was beautiful. Earlier this month, the president-elect concluded his victory speech and told a lovely story about when he was a boy. Whenever he left his grandparents' house after a visit, his grandfather would say, "Joey, keep the faith." And then his grandmother would counter, "No, Joey, spread the faith." Now, I love that image of elders advising a young child on different ways to handle faith, to keep and to spread. And I love how that lesson travels through a lifetime to inform a future president of the United States. And in our fractured political climate, our newly elected president certainly has much faith to spread, and frankly, much faith to restore in this nation. Let us tuck this story in our minds and our hearts and bask in the glow of this Sunday's candle of renewal, the purple candle of faith. This bright light of faith feels good, does it not? Especially because we made it this far to the last Sunday of November 2020. And it has been a wild ride to get here. Global pandemic, economic roller coaster, presidential election, and an aftermath like no other in American history, being whipsawed by a virus, living in a country where doing something as rational and scientifically sound as wearing a mask became a political loyalty test. To hear fellow Americans being interviewed on the radio and saying, in essence, "I don't believe in COVID," or "I don't believe the election results," or "I don't believe in science." It is enough to question one's faith that we all live on the same planet. And yet, here we are, gathering together in our virtual sanctuary, keeping faith with our tradition of lighting candles of renewal, with each Sunday leading to Christmas, that beautiful and complicated religious story about humans, a small baby, and divinity. And on one of those Sundays along the way, we will also light Hanukkah candles in honor of the rededication of the Holy Temple, another beautiful and complicated religious story about the faithful overcoming great odds. Beautiful and complicated religious stories producing light that will stream from this sanctuary, the light of faith, hope, love, and joy. Now, those are huge words. They are billowing concepts, and each has a multitude of meanings for different people, for different families and communities, for different countries and cultures. Brightly colored candles that our children light week after week to call forth our better angels, named faith, hope, love, and joy. Angels that we're calling into a beautiful and complicated world. Now, I love our ritual of lighting these candles, and that I faithfully lived this ritual for decades. Each of my daughters, when they were young and growing up in this congregation, they each wore a stole and walked slowly with presence and conviction down the center aisle of this sanctuary to light candles. They took their responsibility very seriously, and they asked that we, in turn, honor this responsibility as sacred. And I ask that we reflect on the power of this in a ceremony where hundreds of adults practicing a religious faith, where we have gathered in our sanctuary, we bestow upon the children whose faith is still forming the responsibility to attend to the flame, to attend to the light, to physically and ritually pass flame and light from our chalice, the symbol of this religion, to candles called faith, hope, love, and joy. These children are literally spreading the faith. And it makes sense that we start the season with the candle of faith. This powerful ritual visually shows that the light of our religion, the light from our chalice, can in fact be spread and carried from the chalice and set out to light the larger world. And as we gather together over the next several weeks to celebrate the winter holidays, Hanukkah, winter solstice, and Christmas, please pay special attention to these children who are attending to the flames with such care. And before I go one word further, I need to acknowledge a hard fact. The word faith can be difficult for Unitarians, probably less difficult for Universalists. Faith can imply a loose relationship to rationality and reason, and this makes Unitarians break out in a rash, frankly. And I appreciate and I respect the discomfort. As a religious community, we practice a hard-headed and healthy respect for reality, thank you very much, as evidenced by our 6 sources, and I include humanist teachings which counsel us to heed the guidance of reason and the results of science and warn us against idolatries of the mind. Amen. And yes, that creative tension was completely intended, ending a statement about humanism with an amen. And I think that this religion, Unitarian Universalism, deserves a hearty amen, that one of our very taproots is the guidance of reason and the results of science, the taproot of humanism that keeps us grounded and rooted to this world, a gorgeous and fragile and rare planet that can be understood through science and study and reason and rationality. Nothing within the faith of Unitarian Universalism should be threatened by reason or science. No matter how far science or reason advance, there will always be plenty of capital M mystery in the universe. So both the scientists and the mystics can continue their brilliant experiments and profound explorations for as long as time exists. And I love what Einstein says on this point. Quote, "The most beautiful and deepest experience that a person can have is the sense of the mysterious. It is the underlying principle of religion, as well as of all serious endeavors in art and science." According to Einstein, one of the most exquisite minds this earth has ever produced, the most beautiful and deepest experience a person can have is to be present before the mysterious. Let us never kill the mysterious. In my mind, I actually link mysterious with faith. Faith in the mystery, faith in science, faith in faith. Brian Doyle is a writer who I deeply admire. He passed away a few years ago, and the world misses him very much. He had an irrepressible enthusiasm for being alive and a keen appreciation of the visceral details of the planet that he inhabited, as well as a buoyant curiosity for people and their stories. He was a devout Catholic, and one of my favorite books of his is the Book of Uncommon Prayer. It's a fantastic book, highly recommended. In his prayer for Easter morning, and I apologize for calling forth a spring holiday when we haven't even passed winter solstice, so please bear with me. In Doyle's uncommon prayer about Easter, he reflects on the impossibility of the physical resurrection after death. And then he writes, quote, "Easter is the day when we admit, smiling, that the essence of our faith doesn't make sense and isn't physically possible." How great and brave is that? How refreshing to not make sense for once. How refreshing to remember that we are sworn to live by our conviction that there is so much more beyond sense. Einstein's mysterious is beyond sense. And when I first read Doyle's prayer, I delighted. Rather than grind my humanist teeth against irrational beliefs and throw the faith baby out with irrational bathwater, I was called to consider how refreshing this simple fact: the essence of our faith doesn't make sense. Amen. And if you find yourself uncomfortable with this notion, then you're in absolutely good company, and I'm inspired to recite verbatim the foundational principle of Unitarian Universalism, quote, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, as in every person. And I ask, on this Sunday, when we lit the candle of faith, do you have faith in this principle? Is there a point in the consideration of this foundational principle where your faith begins to falter, where it no longer makes sense? And I ask because after a recent service, someone told me that they're not sure about the first principle because they could think of at least one person without worth and without dignity. Now let us take a long moment to contemplate the dancing flame atop the purple candle of faith and do some hard thinking and some deep feeling on this point. If and when we do continue to declare faith in the first principle, we then link arms with Brian Doyle and we move beyond sense. How great and how brave to believe in, to have faith in something that may be difficult or even impossible to believe in, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, as in every person. This is not an easy principle, and the reading this morning shows that the world is not an easy place. The fluttering of unknown gods that I nearly see from the left corner of my blind eye, struggling to stay alive in a world that grinds them underfoot. Now, I try my best to not be one of the grinders of the unknown gods. I try my best to detect the fluttering gods out of the corner of my blind eyes. Now, I believe the world would be a better place. I have faith that the world would be a better place, a more just and a more compassionate place, if more people living in this world practiced faith in the inherent worth and dignity of every person, difficult as that may be. And speaking of difficult, one of the challenges in Unitarian Universalism is that huge swaths of members fled from some other religion because they loathed some aspect of the practice. They said a definitive no to one, some, or all aspects of their previous religious life. And now, within the protective walls of a UU sanctuary, there is no creed. There are no words, no principles that have to be believed. Rather, we're encouraged to live creedlessly the fourth principle, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Now, I beg to differ. Many traditional people equate creedless with faithless, and I beg to differ. So I engage creedless with exuberance, and a profound freedom and responsibility. How great and brave is that? And thus, I stand before you creedlessly and say, I am a person of faith. And as a person of faith within this faith, I have to admit that nowhere in the 7 principles or the 6 sources does the word faith appear, though it does appear the world over. Faith community, faithful, active faith, keep the faith, leap of faith, spread the faith, faith healing, blind faith, crisis of faith, loss of faith, bad faith, faithless. Faith is a huge word. And in the course of preparing for this Faith Sunday, I experienced a heightened awareness of faith, and I came into contact with it numerous times throughout my research within the national media, from books on faith being reviewed by the New York Times to the aforementioned story during the victory speech of the president-elect. I also bumped into a story about the death of a snake-handling minister, ironically enough, killed by a rattlesnake during a service. Now, I fell down that rabbit hole of watching videos of charismatic preachers handling venomous snakes during worship services, and I thought to myself, I would never do that to prove my faith in the interdependent web of all existence, of which me and that poisonous snake are a part. And yet there is something incredibly attractive about testing one's faith by facing danger, by facing an extreme, to accomplish an extraordinary feat, to prove one's faith. I know several normal, rational people, none of whom are particularly religious, though all would describe themselves as spiritual, who have performed firewalking, for example. There are just certain types of human minds and human hearts that need these extremes to actually know and show to themselves and to others the power and the validity of their faith. And in thinking about faith, I was also reminded of a provocative Jewish parable that goes like this. Every person on earth has a coat with two pockets. In one, there is a note that says, "I am divine." In the second, a note that says, "I am dust and ashes." Now, I would like to suggest, as we enjoy the glow of this faith candle, that there's a third pocket on the inside of the coat, right over the heart. And in this pocket, the note reads, "This is it. This world, this reality, this life, this faith, to live with your divinity and your dust." Now, I would guess that all Unitarians have a profound faith in their dust. And I ask aloud, on this Sunday morning, with the purple candle of faith bright and shining, do you have faith in your divinity? As a person of faith, I do. I have faith in your divinity. And there it is, spreading the faith. You're welcome to try this at home if you wish. And to close with divinity and dust, when I began thinking and feeling into the mysterious vastness of faith, I was reminded of yet another poem by Jim Harrison. Here are the first 4 lines. I was commanded in a dream, naturally, to begin the epitaphs of 33 friends without using grand words like love, pity, pride, sacrifice, doom, honor, heaven, hell, earth. And the poet goes on to write 33 pretty spectacular epitaphs to dead friends, and here are a select few. Oh, you tiny sun without an earth. Oh, you river with too many dams. Pardon me for fishing during your funeral. And his final 33rd epitaph, the poet writes to all of us who will one day soon be dust and ashes. The poet writes, "We'll all see God, but not with our eyes." Now, what a delightful statement of faith for Unitarian Universalism. We'll all see God, but not with our eyes. The humanist will see God with her curious brain. The mystic will see gods with her bright visions. The naturalist will see God in the waterfall. And the atheist will see God through the absurd invention of God. And how will you see God, not with your eyes? Perhaps you'll catch a glimpse in these darkening days when the candles are lit by children, candles of renewal, called faith, hope, love, and joy. You feel for those notes in the pockets of your coat, and you read by this candlelight, "I am divine. I am dust and ashes. This is it." There is no better time than this moment, this Sunday, when your dust is not yet dust, to spread the faith of hope, love, and joy, and of course, spread the faith of faith itself. A grandmother, long ago, told her grandson to spread the faith. Decades later, that grandson told a nation. This Sunday, our candle of faith, lit by a child, is encouraging us to do the same. How great and brave is that? Amen. The closing song this morning, This Love Will Carry Me by Dougie Mclean, sung by George Stanley.
Hi, this is a Dougie Mclean song that captures really what we need to get through in these times, and that is love. Thin line that leads us and keeps us all from shame. Dark clouds quickly gather along the way we came. There's fear up in the mountain and death out on the plain. There's heartache and heartbreak in the shadows of the flame. This love will carry, this love will carry me. Oh, I know this love will carry me. Strongest web will tangle, sweetest blooms will fall, and somewhere in the distance we try to catch it all. Success lasts for a moment, trouble's always near. As you look down at your blistered hands, it turns another year. This love will carry, this love will carry me. Oh, I know this love will carry me. This love will carry us, this love will carry us. Oh, I know this love will carry all of us. These days are golden, they must not waste away. Our time is like that flower, and soon it will decay. Though by storms we're weakened, uncertainty is sure. Like the coming of the dawn, it's ours forevermore. This love will carry, this love will carry me. Oh, I know this love will carry me. This love will carry us, this love will carry us. Oh, I know this love will carry us. This love will carry us, this love will carry all of us. Oh, I know this love will carry us.
I invite you now to join us for the extinguishing of the chalice. We extinguish our flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, the fire of commitment, or the power of transformation. These we carry in our hearts until we're together again. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I hope that you'll join us for our virtual coffee hour, the link for which is in the comments section. To close, let us turn our attention to Otto and Sheila as they play our Postlude, Cat on the Prowl, and Bluebird from Jazz Menagerie by Stephen Jackman. And also a special message from the musicians: you are invited to snap along.
Bye.